Folks, welcome back. Just breezing through this hour here. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV, and we're coming to you today like we do every day live. But we are in a state of pandemonium here in the country, certainly in New York City, as the cases multiply. And right down the street at the New York Stock Exchange, there is pandemonium there. We had our fourth circuit breaker halt in the last 2 weeks, just this morning. That's unprecedented. And you may remember I mentioned yesterday, if the market closed on an up note, it might be wise to take a little trading holiday for a couple of weeks and let people regain a little steam, start the next quarter. And that didn't happen. And as we speak right now, Dow down 2,000 at 19 and change. And if I were you, I would sit back and relax and let the dust settle. Don't do anything with your portfolio in these tumultuous and volatile times. And, you know, in the middle of all this corona stuff, some states have sense. They're canceling their primaries, like Ohio, like Missouri. Those have both been canceled. In Alabama, the runoff between Jeff Sessions and Tommy Tuberville, that's been put off until July. But yet yesterday, for some reason, the Democratic Party did carry out some primaries. And to break that all down with us, our good friend who's here in studio, unlike most of our guests today who are Skype, Joe Kovac. He's right here, fellow New Yorker. Joe, thanks for joining us. Joe's a Republican strategist, and he's always here for us. Joe, how crazy is this that they're telling us that people over 70 are the most susceptible, and then they got these two 70-year-old guys running around the country dragging senior citizens out of their home to go vote?
I think that it was absolutely a disgrace yesterday that the Florida election board held the primary, because I would like to see how many seniors actually came out to vote at the polls and to see if there's any correlation with any positive tests or symptoms for the coronavirus, because then that would be a travesty in and of itself on top of everything else.
Yeah, you know, those of us who are deeply entrenched in politics, like Joe and myself, you may not realize this, but mostly old people vote. It's something for them to do. They look forward to it. Many of the political parties arrange some kind of transportation or some convenience to get them from the senior home to their polling place. So to your point, Joe, in Florida, there's a lot of these senior homes, okay? I think there's just about 100 deaths here in the U.S.?
Yes, so far.
Okay. Out of that 100 deaths in the U.S., okay, I think 44 are in the state of Washington in one township where there's 22 deaths in the senior home. So like half of the deaths came from one area that's right around a senior home. You make a great point there. Maybe we should take a look at the senior homes around the polling booths and see if we have a big uptick in cases and maybe stop having elections for a little bit.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And then what would also come into play is that many of the workers that work those sites are seniors. They are people that are retired. I know definitely in New York, an overwhelming percentage of the poll workers, not the watchers, the workers themselves that administer the election, they're seniors. They're over 65, they're 70, they're 75. They've been doing it for 10 or 20 years, and they're greater at risk because of all the people coming in.
It's crazy. And, you know, I don't want to give up my mom's age, but she's a poll worker, and she's, you know, up close to that range. But, you know, I think, Joe, the one really, really solid, consistent voice in this whole thing is Dr. Anthony Fauci. He's from the National Allergies and Infectious Disease Administration. This guy really knows what he's talking about. And when he talks, he's universally respected. Both the left and the right say that's a guy who knows what he's talking about. Let's take a look at what he had to say recently and let's get your thoughts after that. This is Anthony Fauci on the coronavirus and when it may start peaking.
Said this morning he believes that we'll see a peak in terms of infection in 45 days. Would you concur with that?
You know, it's possible. I mean, I know the governor has been really, I believe, doing a really good job of trying to stay ahead of this. 45 days is not unreasonable. You have to be careful. When you get a number, you own the number, and then if the number doesn't come out, you're in trouble. And that's the reason why, from our standpoint, from the federal government, we're talking about a range. So within that range, I mean, it isn't like you want to be correct for the sake of being correct, but you don't want to be wed to something and then have to back off.
So the media cycle is so hyped right now. You got great guys like Dr. Anthony Fauci there who is basically afraid to give a finite number because they don't want to get pinned to a cross.
Sure. Well, I think in many circumstances you cannot give a finite or a definitive number as to how long this will take. It's the same thing as if someone's on a blood thinner. They always have to get regulated because it goes up and down. In regards to the 45 days, you know what I mean, it may be a little bit less, it may be a little bit more. I just think that if we all take precautions, and especially the millennials, who probably will not get sick or get sick severely from this unless if they have an underlying medical condition, if we all take prudent steps to be safe, to be cautious, and not to do risky behavior, such as, you know, spring break.
Right.
I think that it will go and get under control a lot faster.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough to go on a spring break right now with bars and restaurants closed. I mean, beaches, even in Florida, Governor DeSantis has restricted the beaches. So, you know, there's not a heck of a lot to do. And for you youngsters out there, you may be asymptomatic, so you don't think you have anything, so you don't need to be tested, and you think you could be cool and hang out with your friends. But you could be a carrier, and you could bring something to your grandma or grandpa at their nursing home, and it could wipe out, you know, a whole column of people. So everyone, be careful out there. Joey, unfortunately, I want to, you know, wish you my best regards and blessings. I know you just lost your dad.
Yes.
And it's probably a tough time for you, but in your family, you guys celebrate St. Joseph's Day, which is tomorrow. So.
Yes. I would just like to wish my dad a happy St. Joseph's Day in heaven. We're going to still celebrate. I'm going to have a martini for you. And we love and miss you tremendously.
All right.
God bless you.
Joey, thank you so much.
You.
You know, and people are going through all kinds of things at this time, and it may be hard, you know, when you're in the desert looking for a sip of water, but there's an oasis out there, and you got to keep fighting towards it. And when you're in the dark and you see a sliver of light, instead of looking at the darkness, focus in on that one sliver of light. It'll start getting a little bigger for you. So there's always a bright light. There's always someone in a worse circumstance. We have a congressman from New York's 3rd Congressional District, George Santos. George is not with us right now. Okay. All right, you know what? We're going to take a quick break right here, and we're going to come back with George Santos, candidate for Congress in New York's 3rd Congressional District, recently diagnosed with the corona, and we'll get his thoughts on continuing to campaign with this outbreak and pandemic. Quick break, back at you after this.